Hey guys, it's William here. So I have been so late on this video. I'm sorry. I was late on it last year, but I had so many other things to do, and when I finally filmed this video earlier, my hair was a mess and I was so embarrassed by it that I wanted to redo this video. And also, I think I stuttered a little too much. So with that, I guess I don't have anything else to say other than that I've seen about 43 films this year, as I said during my worst video. I don't know which one you are going to see first, but yeah, I gave 3 A+ this year, and 3 A's. Well, in a way, one is a big A, the other two are between like A- and A's. Like, it's too much of a long story. Sometimes, basically, I can't decide if I'm gonna give a movie a certain rating or another, so I just give a mixture. If I was doing this by percentages, it would be a lot simpler, but I don't, so anyway, let's get started with this year's top 10.
Number 10.
So coming in at number 10, we have The Hitman's Bodyguard. Now, I gave this movie a B+, and I admit there are some movies that are a bit better that aren't on this list. But, you see, I think that this is the best hamburger movie of the year. I sighed when I heard that this was like one of those big road trip action thrillers with Ryan Reynolds and Samuel L. Jackson. I don't have to paint you a picture of how that would look like, but to be fair, like, the action scenes were just incredible. And there is a bit of an overly crass Salma Hayek character that I felt didn't have to be that exaggerated. And at the same time, Gary Oldman plays a villain that you just really want to see behind bars, and he really goes to great lengths to prevent that, leading to some excitement that makes it a very rewatchable film. So I thought it over and decided that should merit a spot on this list.
Number 9.
And taking the number 9 spot, we have War for the Planet of the Apes. Like, these Apes movies have more humanity than most movies out there, and they also bring some of the biggest shocks and some of the biggest moments of tears, especially this one. To be fair, I think I like Dawn of the Planet of the Apes more than this one, but still, Andy Serkis as Caesar, he's an irreplaceable ape. You can't take your eyes off how good he looks and how much of just a good person, aka ape, he is. And not to mention, this sort of story that they make, it really makes you think about the next 1,000 years. It really makes you think about the mark humans have left on the earth, and it makes you think about just humanity in general. I can't recommend this franchise enough. It will leave you battered and crying and just traumatized in all a good way.
Number 8.
Now taking the number 8 spot, we have a horror movie called It. I remember a funny thing. My mom was looking for something for my sister to read, and between you and me, she prefers science and athletics, but anyway, she got It, and they didn't realize it was over 1,000 pages, which is longer than any book I've ever read. And so I went into It not knowing anything except the face of Pennywise, and I really like that this one is only the kid's story, because if I'm not mistaken, the book transcends between the kid and adult territory. If they did that for the movie, it would have seemed too cluttered and it seemed like the stories had clashed too much. And I get that that doing a sequel would be the Hollywood kind of thing to do, but in this case, It was so good that I'm really looking forward to the next movie, like, a lot. And I think the best thing about it was Pennywise's movements. The jump scares are affiliated with this character so well that, oh my god, like every time he crawls like this, it really does feel like he's gaining up on you, like it's like the movie's in 3D, yet isn't. It really is frightening, and it also has very good characters who end up fighting over whether to do the right thing or to survive. And that's something where I was really conflicted. I thought to myself, if I was with this group, what would I pick? So yeah, all of the above were very good.
Number 7.
Now taking the number 7 spot is Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle. These sort of movies are licenses for adults to act like kids, and wow, just Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle is a magnificent example. it really shows that Dwayne Johnson and Karen Gillan can act like characters that have personalities where you think someone like that wouldn't look like them. And Kevin Hart is hilarious as someone who is a lot less buff and a lot less tall than he originally was, but I don't think I've ever seen anyone play a child as well as Jack Black. I was a little worried when I found out that Jack Black would be playing this sort of girl who just loves texting and can't live without her phone. I was worried that would stereotype girls in general, but the more I think about it, the more it's meant for humor, and this character ends up more and more brave as time goes on and ends up teaching Martha the ways of distraction, and Martha is actually able to beat these characters in Jumanji just by using her advantages and being herself. I thought all of the above was great. And these actors, even though they're playing teenagers, they never get too cheesy. It really feels like they're teenagers trapped in a video game world where they could die. I saw this movie very late in the year because I took one look at the trailer and knew I had to see it. I wasn't 100% sure if I would give it a recommendation because it looked a little bit corny, but I knew that if I didn't, then I would be thinking about it for all the time that I was doing this list. So Jumanji managed to make it onto the number 7 spot. Oh, and before I forget, Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle is, I'd say, the most rewatchable film of the year. Like, I'm thinking about maybe turning it on after I make this video.
Number 6.
And taking the number 6 spot, we have Kong Skull Island. The fact that not as many people liked it as, say, War for the Planet of the Apes is beyond me. Like, Kong Skull Island is one of the most action-packed movies of the year. Okay, so it's true. I remember some of the actors by the actors, not really the characters they were playing. But Kong happens to have some of the best computer-generated imagery on him that I've ever seen. The monsters manage to really seem gigantic. These characters really do feel like they're in one of the biggest death traps that a horror movie could ever put on, despite being more of a thriller. It really kind of looks at both sides of the people trying to save and the people trying to kill this big beast. And it has a very sympathetic John C. Reilly character that we really hope gets out of it so that he can return to his family after his long-lost absence. Like, I was transfixed from start to finish. If there weren't some character deaths that just felt unnecessary and overdone, I think I would have given this an A or A+, which is why it's at number 6.
Number 6.
And now taking the number 5 spot, we have Get Out. I was a little worried to see this because this was a universally acclaimed film, and I heard it got kind of awkward sometimes, and I generally don't like awkwardness in movies. And another thing is, I grew up not understanding racism as a kid, and come to think of it, I hope that most kids that were my age when I didn't understand racism don't understand racism. Like, I remember when I was 11 years old, I was with a family of color for French camp. We all had a desk together and we became instant friends. We talked about Pokemon, we talked about our favorite teachers, we played games outside like soccer, baseball. We had the time of our life. And it really breaks my heart that it's not like that for the rest of the world. It really should be. And I'm glad to say that Get Out really helps the situation, and Jordan Peele managed to utilize the fact that sometimes he's the only black man in the room, and manages to use language that I think a lot of people will think about for a long time. It really makes you think about if you judge someone as someone of a different color before them as an actual human, but I wouldn't have cared about that as much if it wasn't so exciting by the second half. It really blew my mind. It was a very original horror film where the main character, Chris, actually really felt trapped. After seeing Don't Breathe, I was worried that I wouldn't be able to see any other situation as the characters feel more trapped than that, but Get Out comes pretty much to the same level of tension and claustrophobia. So with that, well done, Jordan Peele. I really like what you did.
Number 4.
And taking the number 4 spot, we have Logan. Now, let me tell you a funny story. I didn't want to see this movie because it was 2.5 hours long, and the last X-Men movie, X-Men Apocalypse, I loathed. I gave it a D, and it was the first D of 2016 at the time. And not only that, but it was a box office success, and it was competing with two other movies that I thought were spectacular A-level movies that didn't perform so well at the box office, so I had a bit of a feud with X-Men Apocalypse. I found it off the charts tedious, zero colorful characters, and Quicksilver being the only big redemption. But I shouldn't have worried. I think Logan is the prime example of why 2017 will go down as the year where superhero movies and big budget blockbusters had showed the world just what movies were made to do. Logan did so much right, and just like War for the Planet of the Apes, it decided to go places that I haven't seen any other superhero movie go before. Hugh Jackman was such a realistically angry character. This was Daphne Keene's first film. She nailed it. I'm envious of how well she played the little girl Laura. And the ending gave me an experience I'll never forget. I was thinking about giving this a B+ until its ending shot it up into the sky, and at the time it was my favorite movie of the year, until these three movies somehow topped it.
Number 3.
And taking the number 3 spot, we have the very first made-for-TV movie I've ever put on a best list before. And that would be Hey Arnold, the Jungle Movie. Now hear me out. I recommend that you watch the rest of the series and the original movie, which in my opinion is really not as good, before seeing this movie. Otherwise you might think it's just so-so. This movie got cancelled because it was originally planned to be made after Hey Arnold the movie, but it was a bit of a box office flop, and Craig Bartlett was being given a slimy sort of contract to only work with Nickelodeon, which he passed on, I think smartly. But as a result, the Jungle movie got cancelled, and a lot of people were very heartbroken, including me, even though I didn't watch Hey Arnold at the time. I realized this story about the time where the Jungle movie was announced. I found that Hey Arnold, the original movie, it was like a 20-minute episode stretched to feature length with not enough cinematic value. For instance, Arnold's grandma makes a Shawshank-esque prison escape, but I felt they could have come up with something a lot better, especially since the actual Shawshank escape really pales in comparison. They managed to do an escape scene of their own this time, but that's far from the best thing about this. Is this movie perfect? I don't think so, but it did everything I wanted it to do. It brought back the original characters that we've really missed for let me think, 13 years or maybe longer, and yet at the same time, this movie was made because we wanted to see the relationship between Arnold and Helga develop even more than it has already, and we wanted to find out what happens to Arnold's parents. And it balances those two storylines out just magnificently, and the colors are gorgeous, the nostalgia is amazing, and the ending is sensational. After I watched that ending, I knew I was giving it an A+, and I even listened to the original closing theme of Hey Arnold. So, yeah.
Number 2.
And taking the number 2 spot, we have a movie that was kind of in the same situation as X-Men Apocalypse. Even though it was universally acclaimed, I didn't want to see it because of its predecessor. And well, we have a movie that is from the same director as Monster, which won Charlize Theron her first Oscar, and we have a movie that everyone's been waiting for a long time, and invented from the same inventor as the lie detector. That's right, it's Wonder Woman. I hated Batman v Superman. For Wonder Woman, I was glued to the screen the entire time, and let me just say, I think Wonder Woman is a great leader for children and teenagers. Gal Gadot plays Diana Prince so sympathetically and so honestly that even though she's talking about Ares and trying to kill him to stop the First World War, everything that she says makes sense to us. And this movie never addresses Diana as Wonder Woman. It addresses her as Diana Prince, because that really is who she is underneath all that armor. And it was the most fun I had watching a movie really all year. And it really showed that maybe DC really has a chance to step up their game. And well, actually, with Wonder Woman, they stepped up their game so high that even though I haven't seen Justice League, I'm going to, but I really doubt that any other DC movie is going to top this one, unless Patty Jenkins is in the director's seat. And this was going to be number one until I saw this movie. And like Alice Through the Looking Glass, this number one just swooped away the entire competition.
Number 1.
Like, halfway through I knew that, well, I didn't know because how can you, but I 90% thought that this was going to be the best movie of the year. And it's a shame because like Alice Through the Looking Glass, I haven't seen any best lists with it on it. And it hasn't gotten as good reviews as Wonder Woman or Logan, and it's a shame. I really don't know why. Now, number 1 is based off of a memoir. And when I read that memoir, which convinced me to see the movie, and however, I felt like even though the memoir was very well done and I was impressed with how much the author remembered, I felt like there was just so much piled in that there wasn't much of a big plot. But I shouldn't have worried about that for the movie. Number 1 is The Glass Castle. This movie crams every good thing about the original memoir that I remember and makes it so it's a 2-hour movie that breezes by so fast that I immediately wanted more. Near the end, we get a flashback to Jeanette as a little kid and her father Rex. They're both howling in the desert saying that they're going to chase the demons away. As they howl, I was howling with them. This movie is probably the best father-daughter story I've ever seen, and one of the best family movies I've ever seen. I guess it doesn't have much competition for me, but oh my goodness, it really shows what some families go through when they realize that their parents, which are supposed to be their role models, aren't role models, and that how they have to fend for themselves in a world that won't take them as seriously, and in a world where their parents are so demanding, sometimes they're unsafe, and yet it really shows how love for families can conquer big conflicts, and how sometimes families fight, and sometimes some families get over it, sometimes not, and by the 1 hour 45 minute mark, there's a confession that broke me in two. I was so furious, and this movie really moved me just so much more than any other movie I'd ever seen. And I've only seen it once, I admit, but once was enough. I don't think there's a single day that goes by where I don't think about this film. The Glass Castle is, for me, the best movie of 2017, and I encourage everyone to watch it. So, there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this list as much as I loved making it, as usual, and now I'm gonna go and get this edited, and I hope you have a great 2018 year. I can't wait to see what else there is, and I can't wait to get more A+, and even more Fs, because watching, in my opinion, bad movies, it really gives you really creative drive. So see you around.